Hi there, I'm Alex the Pie Guy, and today we are doing the practice problems for Lesson 4 on the order of operations. Now, before we get started, the first thing you should do whenever you learn something new and you're trying to memorize it is write it down all the time. So, up in the corner here, I'm just going to write bedmass, brackets, exponents, division, multiplication, addition, subtraction. That way, hopefully by the time you've done all your homework and the time a test comes, you've written it down enough times that it's ingrained in your brain. You'll never ever forget it for the rest of your life. So the questions today, we're just going to evaluate. We're going to do some simple problems, and then we're going to hopefully work our way up to some harder, more complicated problems. So first up, we have 1 plus 2 minus 3 plus 4. There is no brackets, there's no exponents, there's no multiplication, there's no division, so we can just jump right to addition and subtraction. Remember, left to right, the order they come in. So, first, 1 plus 2 is 3. 3 minus 3 is 0. 0 plus 4 is 4. There we go. Next, 1 times 2 divided by 3 times 6. So first, 1 times 2, well that's easy, that's just 1. 2 divided by 3, I'm going to leave that as a fraction. 2/3 times 6 is 12/3. As a fraction, I can simplify this fraction. That's just 4. Next up, we're getting a little harder. We're going to mix up those additions, subtractions, multiplications, and divisions. We still have no brackets or exponents, but we are getting these last 4 guys in. So, up here, we're going to start with our division and multiplication. Left to right, we see a 2 times 3, so we're going to evaluate that as 6. Now I'm going to combine these 2 steps together because these 2 guys here are independent of each other. Save myself writing a line. So 8 divided by 2 is 4. Now I've done all the multiplication and division. Next, 6 minus 2 plus 4. 6 minus 2 is 4 plus 4. And that's 8. On to D. Multiplication and division from left to right. We have 4 divided by 3. I'm going to leave that as a fraction of 4/3. Subtract 2 times 2. Well, this is independent of this guy, so I am just going to save myself a line. Write that as 4. 4/3 minus 4. Let's use some practice of using fractions. We have to make this the same base. Remember, 4 is just 4 over 1. So that's 4/3 minus 12/3 is the equivalent fraction. Now I can do my subtraction. That becomes negative 8/3. I could evaluate what negative 8/3 is, but I'm not going to. It's just a decimal. Oftentimes your teachers are just going to be fine if you leave it as a single fraction, as long as you've reduced it down and as far as you can. All right, on to the next couple problems. Here we have an exponent now. So we go left to right, we see no brackets. We go left to right, we see an exponent. So we're going to evaluate that exponent. 2 to the power of 3 is 8. And I want to take a note here. Sometimes if you've made a mistake, checking your exponents is a really good idea, because oftentimes when you get in the habit of, okay, I'm doing my exponents, then I'm doing my multiplication, division, all that other stuff, sometimes you get them confused and you might accidentally do 2 times 3. So it's always worth looking over and say, okay, did I do my exponents right? Now there's no more exponents, so we move on to multiplication and division. 3 times 8 is 24. Now there's no more multiplication and division, so we can move on to addition and subtraction. 24 minus 6 is 18. And we're done. The next one, we have a bracket. There's no exponents. So we go left to right, there's one set of brackets. We'll evaluate this first. Inside the brackets, there's only one expression, which is a subtraction. 3 plus 2 times 8 minus 3 is 5. Now there's no more expressions inside the brackets, so I can drop the brackets. You don't actually have to drop the brackets. You could keep them there and just ignore that they're there on your next step. 3 plus 2 times 5. Well, multiplication and division is next, so we have 2 times 5 is 10. No more expressions in the multiplication and division standpoint, so we go on to addition and subtraction. 3 plus 10 is 13. And on to the last two practice problems for this video. Question G, we got some negatives going on in here. So, first we see brackets. We have a few sets of brackets. So we work left to right. We start with this set of brackets. We go inside of it. Is there any more brackets inside of it? There is not. So we go on to exponents. No exponents. Is there multiplication or division? There's no multiplication or division. So we go right on to addition and subtraction. So we have 2 minus 7 is negative 5. Now, you could drop the negative, but what I like to do is whenever I have a negative number, I usually like to keep it in the brackets because, as we can see here, we have a negative, and when we do the multiplication, those negatives are going to cancel out, but I don't want to lose track of those negatives. I don't want to get them confused or anything, so I like to leave them in the brackets, even when I'm going to be adding them or anything like that, just so I don't lose track of those negatives. So with that bracket done, we go to the second bracket. Then we say, are there brackets inside of that? There is. So evaluating this bracket, there's only one operation to do. 1 minus 2 is a negative 1. Again, I'm just leaving the brackets there. You can drop them if you really want, but it looks kind of weird when you write 3 times negative 1 like that. It's kind of confusing if that negative is supposed to be a subtraction symbol or something like that. Did you forget to write a number? So that's why I like to keep it in the brackets. Now we go to the outer bracket here. 3 times negative 1 is negative 3. And the brackets are done. There's no exponents, so we go to multiplication and division. This little negative out here, that's an implied negative 1 being multiplied. So this is actually negative 1 times negative 5 times negative 3. So we just do the multiplication from left to right. Negative 1 times negative 5 is 5. 5 times negative 3 is negative 15. And we're done. The next problem and the last problem, we have, I've used square brackets here. We have some exponents. There's a fraction. Anyways, so first, brackets. There is one set of brackets on the outside. Inside of it, there is another set of brackets, so we're going to go there. Inside of that, there's no more brackets. We move on to exponents. There is an exponent, so we're going to evaluate that first. 2 to the 3 is 8. Also, just be careful when you're writing brackets and things like that, especially the curve brackets. Sometimes if you don't make it curvy enough, it kind of looks like there's a 1 there, so I almost mistook this for an 81. Just something to keep in mind. Now we continue with this bracket. We only have one more operation, which is an addition, so 1 plus 8 is 9. Now I could drop the brackets now if I want and put a little multiplication symbol in here. Because it's an implied multiplication, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to leave it as is with the brackets up. Sort of like how I had the brackets up here. So we move from this bracket to the larger set of brackets. And there's an exponent in there. So we are going to evaluate that exponent next. 3 to the power of negative 2, I'm going to leave that as a fraction. And yes, I did design this problem so that this fraction would cancel out immediately, and it's not always going to be that way. But that's just how I designed the problem. So it would be a little easier for us to solve. So next we go over here, we've done all the exponents, we've done all these brackets, so now we do the multiplication and division. So we have a multiplication right here of 1 over 9 times 9, which will be 9 divided by 9, which is 1. And then there's only this addition left to do. So we've solved that bracket. Now we have 2 divided by a half. Remember, when we're dividing by a fraction, all we do is we flip it and then multiply it. So that's the same as writing 2 times 2 over 1. We don't really need to write the over 1 part. And we're left with 4. Anyways, that's it for these practice problems. I hope they gave you something to work on to practice using the order of operation or BEDMAS or PEMDAS or whatever you like to call them. If you like this video and you'd like to see more of this kind of stuff, feel free to drop a subscribe. I'm Alex from Alex the Pie Guy, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you.